Alright, welcome to episode 3 of The Road Goes Ever On and On with Bilbo Bricko and I'm your host. And today we're in New England at Boston National Historic Park. And we're going to be boarding the U.S. Constitution, walking along the Freedom Trail, and we might even hit some national parks that are nearby the Boston area as well. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll get started here in just a minute. Alright, so before we go out and actually see the national parks, I did want to give you a few little tidbits of information about them. In this episode, we will be visiting 5 national parks. We would have been visiting 6, and I did visit 6, but unfortunately, I had a tragic accident in which I lost all the footage that I took at Acadia National Park, which happened to be the nicest looking out of all 6 of them, but what are you going to do? So, tragic loss, so I wanted to get this out of the way so I can just forget about that. I had about half an hour of footage from there and stuff, so tragic loss. You can find some footage of it on YouTube, I'm sure. May even try to put a couple pictures that I took of it in the video, if I can figure out how to do that. If not, though, go there for yourself. It's an amazing place, and if you can't, well, just look up some footage from someone else besides me. Andrew1983 doesn't have any either, so for once I'll recommend someone else's channel, although I have no idea who I'm recommending. Just type in Acadia and I'm sure a lot will pop up. But at least I still have the footage from the other 5 national parks, at least for now. Hopefully I won't have another tragic accident. I don't intend to, though. I'll take extra security precautions. I'll set up a perimeter of lasers around my camera, some motion sensors, and all that good stuff. Hire some guards. But we'll still look at the other 5 national parks in this video. I will go and tell you a little bit about Acadia, so I'll do the best I can with that. I'll tell you a little bit about their junior ranger programs, and then of course you'll get to see lots of footage, except from Acadia, at the actual national park. But, so I can get this out of the way and forget about it, let's go ahead and start with Acadia. And I will be reading from the Official Guide to America's National Parks, 13th edition. It's a bit outdated. I believe they may have added 1 or 2 national parks since this was released. But no matter, it won't affect any of the previous national parks, unless they've added stuff to them, which I doubt. Some of them look really old, by the way. Anyway, Acadia National Park. It's in Maine, on Mount Desert Island off the southeastern coast of Maine. Acadia's glaciated coastal and island landscape embraces towering mountains, shimmering lakes, and thick hardwood and evergreen forests. I saw them all, and I got them all on footage, and then it was lost. Its rich cultural history, provided by various indigenous peoples and successive waves of French and English immigrants, can be traced back 5,000 years. The Cire du Mont Spring Nature Center near Bar Harbor, and the Isle or Islesford, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, Historical Museum on Little Cranberry Island explore the area's natural beauty and cultural ties. And Acadia is mostly for its natural beauty. It's not, I mean, there is history there for sure, but it's mostly a national park because of its beauty. Some of the other national parks we'll be visiting have absolutely no beauty, but lots of history, as you'll see. It's tips and hints. Avoid touring 10 to 2 in summer because of crowds. Visit late May or early June for wildflowers and migrating warblers, or the first half of October for fall foliage and raptor migration. Not velociraptors, hawks, and eagles and that kind of thing. It's the only national park in the northeastern section of the United States, but it's not the only national park. I know I really just confused you and I sound probably really stupid, but I know what I'm talking about. You see, this is the best way to show you. These are all national parks, but they're not all called national parks. As you'll see, for example, NMEM stands for National Memorial. Now, while it's a national memorial, it's part of the national parks system, but it's not actually a national park. You'll see right below National Memorial, National Park. That's what Acadia is. It's the only national park with the abbreviation National Park in the Northeast, at least for now, the last time I checked. But of course, there's all kinds of other national park sites, lots of national monuments, national historical parks, national historical sites, and all that good stuff. But it's the only national park. And it's still, I know it still sounds confusing. If you have any questions, just type in the comments and I'll try to answer it as best I can. Here is the Junior Ranger program for Acadia. Not really that hard. If you're 7 or younger, you have to do 5 activities in here. 8 to 11, you have to do 7. 12 or older like me, and you have to do 9. You're supposed to attend a ranger program, but the day I went it was raining and all of them got canceled, so they cut me some slack and let me just watch the movie. They will sometimes do that for younger kids, even if there are ranger programs that day. But if you're older and ranger programs are still on schedule, they'll expect you to do that. You also do a very short interview with the park ranger and then turn the book in. And if everything looks satisfactory, you'll get it's a patch, not a badge this time. So here's a few of the things in here. Now, for the ones that don't have a lot of historical significance, a lot of it's just questions about the national park system, hiking safety, and that kind of stuff. Also some natural history kind of stuff as well. Ancient peoples, plants, animals, geology. A lot of Acadia's interesting features were carved out by glaciers, as you'll see if you go there. Tide pools, that kind of stuff. So that's the Junior Ranger program for Acadia. And you don't get a badge, you get a patch which looks like this. I have not got it sewn on yet. So a little different looking from the other badges, which I like. And you can also buy pins there. I did get one. I spent the most of my time at Sand Beach, so I got a pin for Sand Beach. It's the only sandy beach at Acadia. The rest of it's big rocks and crashing waves. Some of my favorite landmarks there, which I did give on camera, but of course you know what happens. What I recommend seeing are Sand Beach, Thunder Hole, and Cadillac Mountain. Those are probably the best places. There are some real difficult trails there. There's also some nice easy ones. Just make sure that you know what you're getting into before you go too far on the trail. Oh, here's a pamphlet for Acadia. As far as I know, all the national parks have these pamphlets. It gives you some historical or natural history information about the park. So make sure you pick one of those up when you go there. Nice keepsake. And helps you remember. And there's more information on it than is in this. And you can also go to www.nps.gov. That's the official National Parks website. And you can get all the information for all the national parks on there. Dates, times, directions, all that good stuff for when you decide to visit. Or if you just like to know about the national park anyway, which sometimes I like to do. So I believe that's it for Acadia. Oh, well, one more thing. Of course, if you have the passport to your national parks, which I highly, highly, highly recommend. Even more highly recommend the big, I think it's the Explorers Edition. It's $50 though, so you have to be a hardcore National Parks fan. Not that I'm not a hardcore National Parks fan. It's just that I want to fill up my 2 passports that I have here, at least for the most part, before I go ahead and spend $50 on something that I may not even be using for a while. But I will certainly be getting that eventually. If you're not a hardcore National Parks fan, or you're just getting started, though, I would definitely recommend the smaller version, which is only about $8 or $9. And I'm sure that all the proceeds go to benefiting the national parks. At least that's what they say. But I'm sure they do. Hopefully. But let me see if I can find it here. Wrong one. I had to pick up an extra while I was there because some of the parks had so many areas to stamp your passport. So here's the one for Acadia. Now you'll know when I was there. Were you there then? Bar Harbor, Maine. And there's also, you can also get the regional stamps. There's a set of stamps, one for each region, and a national stamp that comes out at the beginning of every year since 1986. 86, I believe, was the first year. So, and then there was a regional stamp for Acadia, just 1987 it was. It says Acadia National Park preserves granite hills, rugged shoreline, and offshore islands, offering visitors a parkland of gentle and inspiring beauty. Encompassing 35,000 acres, Acadia ranks as the only national park in New England. I hope I clarified that for you. That is true, and it's not true. And the first national park established east of the Mississippi River. So of the true national parks that are just national parks, not national historical sites or anything, I've only been to 2, Acadia and the Great Smoky Mountains. When I went to the Great Smoky Mountains, though, that was way, way, way before the channel build Brickonine was even established. I'd say about 5 years or so before then. I was a wee lad back in those days. So I believe that is now all for Acadia, so hopefully now I can put back behind me the terrible, harsh reality of that I lost all that footage. And rejoice in the fact that I did not lose everything. If I had lost everything, I would not be filming this video for like a year after, until I'd forgotten about that. But I had to wait a few days because it was so tragic for me. Anyway. Oh, wait. A couple more things about Acadia, actually. Like, there's always something I'm forgetting. Not that, not that. Save this for later. And that one. Okay. You can also get walking stick medallions. If you have a walking stick, you can nail these into them. If you have a hard walking stick, a very hardwood walking stick, did I say rocking stick? I meant walking stick. If you have a very hardwood walking stick, then these puny little nails might not work, as I have discovered. So I'm going to have to think of something else, but I don't feel like thinking about that right now. So they had a couple different varieties there. I did quite a bit of walking there, so I feel like I earned it. Some of them I can't say that I feel like I earned, but a lot of them I do. So there. Especially one that I'll show you later. But I believe that is now finally it for Acadia. But I don't have any footage for it, so before you could see any of the footage I actually took while I was up north, I still have to tell you about Boston National Historical Park. And I have a lot to tell you about that. So if you know a lot about these sites, but you just want to see footage from there, then I'd recommend skipping this part. So I'll be back in a moment after I do something with my evil bird, I'm sure you've all met. Alright, Boston National Historical Park. Definitely the &1 national park to visit while in Boston. And in case you were wondering, it's located in Boston. I know it's hard to possibly imagine where it could be, so I just wanted to let you know that. The 2.5-mile Freedom Trail stretches along the route to the revolutionary generation of Bostonians who blazed a trail from colonialism to independence. On the way are the Old State House, Old South Meeting House, Faneuil Hall, Paul Revere House, Old North Church, Bunker Hill Monument, and Charlestown Navy Yard, where the U.S.S. Constitution, that's what this is, nicknamed Old Ironsides, is birthed. birthed, I guess is the correct term. It's B-E-R, just so you know. The park was authorized on October 1st, 1974, so it's really not that old. What you can do there: touring historic sites, walking the tour trail. And it's free admission to the federally owned sites, such as the Bunker Hill Monument and the U.S.S. Constitution, the Dorchester Heights Monument, anti-ranger-led programs, but a lot of the buildings are going to cost you some money to get into, including the museum that's right next to the U.S.S. Constitution, and a couple of other museums and stuff around there as well. And some of the historical sites are privately owned and you have to pay to go in, such as the Paul Revere House. So you can go to the website once again to look up information and all that good stuff. A few things that you'll see in the video, but I want to tell you about right now anyway, in case crowds drown me out, which they shouldn't have done because I, the great Bill Bavrico 9, was speaking. If you want to get on board the U.S.S. Constitution, get ready, because it's worse than going on an airplane. You have to show them, if you're not a minor, you have to show them your driver's license. Yeah, they want you to take belts off, shoes, empty your pockets. Anything that's on you is coming off. Okay, well, not everything. You know what I mean. Purses, bags, suitcases, all that kind of stuff. They even took my passport from me, which greatly disheartened me. At least they gave it back. Sometimes they won't give stuff back. But it's still an active U.S. naval ship, so they have to protect it. And stop being so noisy, bird. So they want to make sure you're not bringing a bomb on board to blow up this nice old ship, because who would want to do such a thing anyway? And it is a really nice looking ship. Got quite a bit of footage from that, so you'll get to see all that good stuff. Something else. Oh, yes. If you want to get on board and see the U.S.S. Constitution, you need to start making your plans, because as soon as the new year kicks in, 2015 in this case, there will be 3 years where you will not be able to go on board the U.S.S. Constitution. So 2015, 16, and 17. It's off limits because they will be renovating it, which they've done in the past at least one time. So if you want to get on board and see it, you need to do it now. You've got about 6 months to do it. The Freedom Trail is marked out by a brick path. Some of the areas that you go through are nice, some of them are not so nice. But in any case, it's a very historical area, and I recommend walking it. Some of the areas you may not want to be alone, though, just saying. But for the most part, it's pretty safe, but maybe not exactly pretty like it would be in Acadia. So, oh, here's the hiking stick medallion for Boston National Historical Park, which I, yes, certainly feel like I earned. I did lots of walking there. And you'll get to see most of the buildings there. You won't get to see all of them, just because I want to get to some of the other national parks, but you'll get to see pretty much all of the big important ones. Let me see. Yeah, the Junior Ranger program I kind of lost, unfortunately. But it's pretty extensive. They give you 2 booklets. You have to do, according to my friend, age 19 to 30, of course, you have to do 1 to get the Boston National Historical Park badge, and if you do 2 of them, you get some special other badge as well. But interesting story, I told the guy that I had limited time and asked him if I could do the work at home and send it back in to get my patch, and well, he just gave it to me. But don't lie. I mean, if you really have constrained time, you may want to try that. But if you don't, please don't do that. That's very dishonest. And I did not expect him to do that at all. I figured I'd have to actually do what I was asking him if I could do. And here is the badge. It's actually different from the other ones for once. I believe that is Faneuil Hall on the badge there. And I got a couple of other badges there, or pins I should say. One for the U.S.S. Constitution, one from Bunker Hill, and one that just is all about Boston. So, and then I also got this. I'm going to get it framed and hang it up. It's a portrait of the U.S.S. Constitution. Some of them are quite expensive, by the way. They also have some very nice ties there, by the way. I got one of them. And Good tip, they're great conversation starters. You'll see what I mean if you get one. Especially the one that's got all the whole. There's one tie that I got at the museum right next to U.S.S. Constitution. It's got like the whole history of, well, the whole early history of Boston on it. Very awesome tie. Somewhat expensive, but you can probably, I think it was 20 or 25. But I think it was worth it. It's a really cool tie. So, oh, here's a map of it. It's a little beat up because I kept folding it and unfolding it while I was walking. And just for the record, Boston African American National Historic Site it's like adjacent to Boston National Historical Park. But by the time I was done with National Historical Park, the day was ending, and actually the day I went there, they were closed anyway. I guess that one's closed on Sundays. But as you can see, they say it's 2.5 miles. It felt like more to me. But there is where I started. There's the U.S.S. Constitution and the Visitor Center. They have a Visitor Center, and then they have the U.S.S. Constitution Museum. That's where I went. It looks like a short jaunt when it's about 15 or 20 minutes to walk to the Bunker Hill Museum, in which you can get a pass so you can climb to the top of Bunker Hill Monument. Crossing the Charlestown Bridge, not the nicest looking bridge in the world. You can get to all the other sites, including the Copsville Burying Ground. I walked past it. I didn't film it though for some reason. Old North Church. I got outside and inside footage of it. That's the church where the lanterns were lighted to warn that the British were coming. Paul Revere's house. I didn't go inside, but I did get some outside footage. There's another visitor center, like inside Faneuil Hall, and there's all kinds of little shops in there and stuff. And they were playing really loud, annoying music outside that George Washington, I don't think, would be proud of. That is where I stopped. I did not go any further south because that took me all day right there. But you can also see the Boston Massacre site, the old State House, the old corner bookstore, the old South Meeting House, and a bunch of other things. And then where the path turns dark red is where it turns into Boston African American National Historical Site, closed on Sundays. Boston National Historical Park, however, is not closed on Sundays. So, definitely worth a stop. As I was saying, I had to buy 2 passports. Well, I had to buy another passport. I already had one. But I had to buy another one because my North Atlantic region section got filled up because it's mostly a Boston National Historical Park. So I know it's hard to read. I'm not exactly a great stamper. But that says Boston National Historical Park, U.S.S. Constitution Museum. So it means that you've been to the U.S.S. Constitution Museum at Boston National Historical Park. I had no idea that there would be any more, because every park I'd been to before this, at least when I was interested in the cancellation stamps, they only had one, including Acadia. Well, now they have, this one had a ton of stamps. They had this, which I believe I did upside down. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but it's pretty cool looking. They had another one at Faneuil Hall. Another one for Dorchester Heights National Historic Site. I guess it's just a protected area or something. This is my favorite. It's a stamp that looks like the Constitution. That's pretty cool. They have another one if you visit the Charlestown Navy Yard. Another one yet if you go on the U.S.S. Constitution. And by the way, just because it says like Faneuil Hall or U.S.S. Constitution doesn't mean that the stamp station is actually there. It may just be in a building nearby, and they'll probably have multiple ones there. I wouldn't recommend getting it stamped unless you've been there, though, or plan to go there. There's one for Bunker Hill, another one for Bunker Hill Monument. That's actually a stamp. It looks like a big pole, but it's supposed to be Bunker Hill. Another one that didn't turn out so great. It's supposed to say Freedom Trail. I guess I got 2 that said Faneuil Hall, but that one, the first one I actually hadn't been to Faneuil Hall yet, so it didn't really count. And then this one it's actually for the Boston African American National Historic Site. I didn't actually go there, but they have a stamp at Faneuil Hall for that anyway. So lots of stamps for Boston National Historic Park. And I did want to tell you a little bit of history. I'm not really up to date on the history, but a few things to note. And by the way, Boston National Historical Park, or Site, can't quite remember, Boston and Minuteman national historical parks go hand in hand. So if you see one, I would definitely recommend going to the other. But Boston National Historical Park, it mostly commemorates the beginning of the Revolutionary War, Paul Revere's famous midnight ride, the Old North Church, as I mentioned before, that's where the lanterns were lit, one if by land, two if by sea. The Freedom Trail kind of commemorates Paul Revere's ride, but that's actually a little bit, it actually goes way further than the Freedom Trail, because you think that Lexington and Concord are pretty close to Boston, when in fact it's about half an hour away, at least. So, both of those kind of commemorate Paul Revere's ride. Minuteman is more for the end of his ride, and Boston's more for the beginning of his ride, though. And the U.S.S. Constitution, famous naval ship that was brought back and restored. I actually know a little bit more about Minuteman. I didn't, because most of the time I was at Boston, I was actually walking the trails and getting some footage, so don't know a whole lot about Boston. I should be able to tell you a little bit more about Lexington and Concord, though. And of course, even that one is still concentrated on the beginning of the story of the Revolutionary War. You'll have to go to, say, Yorktown to learn more about the end. And of course, there's tons of sites commemorating what happened in just a tiny little space in between. Just kidding. Same for the Civil War. But it's pretty cool. I've been to both the site of the beginning of the Revolutionary War and the beginning of the Civil War. I have been to Yorktown. That was way before this channel was started. Way before. Even before the Great Smoky Mountains, though. That was before I even knew about the national park system, so that's pretty pitiful. But anyway, not a whole lot of history. I told you pretty much all that I know. Of course, there's Paul Revere's house. That's pretty self-explanatory. The site of the Boston Massacre, and all that cheery stuff. So you can go there and learn about it for yourself, or I'm sure you can check out some other videos or books if you want to learn more about it. But if I go any further, I'm just afraid I'll give out false information. I don't want to do that. And history isn't really Bill Brickonine's specialty. It's Legos and Hobbits and all that good stuff. But this is a nice change, of course. So I've talked long enough. I think it's time that you finally get to see some footage of Boston National Historical Park. And I don't believe I'm forgetting anything. So I'll be back after this footage to tell you about Saugus Ironworks. Alright. Here on the second level, we'll see that the canyons are a lot longer. There are rows and rows of them.
About 7/10 of a mile versus miles.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
There's on the other side as well.
They call it over Ironside, and in that battle, the British are
Now, this ship was used mostly during the War of 1812, which included a lot of different nations, most especially America, the United States, France, Canada as well. So lots of different nations were fighting during this time. And these may have been used for carrying gunpowder for all of the big cannons. Now, this is a restricted area, but it appears that it was probably like the captain's quarters or something to that effect. This is the third level, third and final. And over here is where everyone else would have slept and spent a lot of their downtime. I take that back, there's another level, but it is restricted. This is the cooking area right here. Big furnace. Well, an oven. And the captain would get separate meals. Of course, he was treated specially. Everyone else would get like a little bowl of porridge or some hardtack. Maybe if they're lucky, they get some solid pork or something. Some of these barrels would have been used for desalinating meat, because of course they had to keep the meat fresh, and they did that by putting salt on it. So they would have stuck the meat in here and shook it up with fresh water. And eventually some of the salt would come off, make it a little more tasty. Although I like my food a little salty. Here's where the cooking smoke would have come up from. Here, that is the bathroom. So to see everything else at Boston National Historic Park, right outside the Constitution, you'll see a brick path, and that signifies the Freedom Trail. So just follow that and you'll get to see the other sites, and we're not going to get to see all of them, so I unfortunately have limited time, but we'll see a few of them. And make sure you dodge the cars that are blocking the Freedom Trail. Start climbing, which will take a very long time. This is the bottom of the Bunker Hill Monument. 294 steps of doom. At least it's air conditioned. Steps are numbered, that's not the milestones.
Up the stairs we go, and then it's into the tunnel.
Now we're at the top of Bunker Hill Monument. You can see pretty much the entirety of Boston from here. But that's not the kicker, this is. I can see the bottom. That's the express elevator. Just jump on that and you'll get a quick hop down. Here is a statue of Colonel William Prescott. Not only was he a colonel, but he was also a doctor during the Battle of Bunker Hill, and apparently he died, unfortunately. This was one of the first battles of the Revolutionary War after Lexington and Concord. And couple things about Bunker Hill Monument in the background. The guy who did the designs for Washington Monument actually submitted in the design for this, but they thought it was too ornate. But eventually he actually did quite a bit of work designing the actual Washington Monument. And this was built before the Washington Monument, so if anything, that was modeled after this, which makes it pretty special. Some?
One direction.